Chapter 1. Introduction to Lords of the Fallen. Lords of the Fallen is an action role-playing video game first released in 2014. It was developed by Deck 13 Interactive, a German studio known for their expertise in crafting challenging combat and atmospheric worlds. The game was published by CI Games, a Polish company. Lords of the Fallen garnered attention for its homage to the Souls-like genre, blending punishing difficulty with deep lore and a dark medieval fantasy setting. The project was led by creative directors Dominik Aby and Jan Kloos, whose vision shaped a world filled with ancient curses, fallen gods, and heroic struggle. From the beginning, the game intended to offer players a rich narrative intertwined with complex gameplay mechanics, setting the stage for a story that unfolds across battles, alliances, and revelations. This narration will explore the full lore of Lords of the Fallen, tracing the history of its world, the roles of its major characters, and the perpetual conflict between mortal and divine forces that defines its universe. Chapter 2. The World of Lords of the Fallen and its Mythos. The setting of Lords of the Fallen takes place in a world perpetually caught between mortal ambition and divine wrath, where ancient myths and present-day struggles intertwine. This realm's history is shaped by an intricate balance between humans and the Order, once revered gods who ruled the realms with tempestuous authority. Once, these beings wielded awe-inspiring power and demanded obedience, but their arrogance and caprice sparked a celestial rebellion that fractured the heavenly hierarchy. This rebellion fractured the divine order and ended an age of unchecked godly dominion. The entities, once lords of the cosmos, were imprisoned by mortal hands, which transformed the world's destiny forever. Known simply as the Order, the gods were bound by a collective of mortals empowered by forbidden magic, their imprisonment a somber judgment rendered by those once beneath their rule. However, this victory came not without grave consequences. The world was left tainted by the lingering energies of divine influence. Twisted mutations, restless spirits, and cursed creatures emerged from the fragile bonds restraining godly power. In this uneasy new age, humanity trembles on the edge of past sins and shadowed future, where ancient relics radiate hidden energies and the scars of rebellion mark every corner of the land. Mortals strive to walk a narrow path between harnessing forgotten divine legacies and resisting the corrupting need for power, living amidst ruins that murmur with echoes of fallen divinities and the unrelenting grasp of their enshrined authority. Chapter 3. The Imprisonment of the Gods and the Rise of Humanity. The pivotal event known as the Imprisonment stands as the most defining moment in the annals of this world. Once, the gods administered dominion over mortals with an iron will coated in pride and wrath, their decrees inflexible and often devastating. Their fading benevolence gave way to tyranny, and their divine arrogance seeded rebellion among the subdued peoples. Sensing that their survival hung in the balance, disparate tribes and warring factions united under a common cause: resistance against the omnipotent. Forged in desperation, an alliance composed of warriors, mages, and scholars pooled knowledge and power to challenge the immortal enslavers. It was through sorcery of ancient and forbidden nature that the binding was achieved. Heroic sacrifices litter this tale. Countless warriors gave their lives to craft seals embedded with runes that would forever imprison the celestial tyranny. These sacrifices extended beyond physical death. Their souls were eternally tied to these seals, becoming spectral guardians to prevent divine resurgence. The aftermath reshaped civilization itself. Humanity emerged altered, endowed with scarred bodies and minds carrying the residual echo of divine essence, some inheriting abilities, others cursed with deformities or madness. Monuments commemorating the war, such as towering statues and sacred monuments, were raised amid political struggle as various factions jockeyed for control over the New World Order and the arcane relics that now surfaced. The shattered divine influence did not vanish. It fragmented, lingering in artifacts scattered across the land, objects imbued with terrible power that beckoned those willing to gamble their souls for dominance. Thus, the political landscape grew labyrinthine, with myriad groups vying for supremacy under the looming shadow of rekindled divine conflict. Chapter 4. Harkyn, the Chosen, and his destiny. At the very heart of Lords of the Fallen lies Harkyn, an embodiment of hardship, resilience, and the blurred line between sinner and saviour. Marked by a troubled past, Harkyn's story starts amid chains and condemnation. He is a convicted criminal, facing execution for offences against an established order. Yet, fate intervenes in the form of a calling beyond his comprehension. Chosen by an ancient force to confront an emerging threat, the resurgence of imprisoned divine beings, Harkyn is thrust from the dungeons into a grim destiny. His character is complex, gruff, violent, and prone to instinct rather than deliberation. But beneath the hardened exterior beats a warrior mindful of his burden and driven to survive at all costs. His bloodline harbours secrets that link him intrinsically to the divine forces threatening to once again cascade chaos upon the world. Harkyn is thrust between conflicting loyalties, meeting remnants of forgotten histories in cryptic ruins and haunted battlefields. As the Chosen, he is both weapon and shield, tasked with either reinforcing the seals that bind the gods or confronting the possibility of their catastrophic release. Throughout his path, Harkyn confronts not only external adversaries, but also his own inner demons, struggles with guilt, redemption, and the heavy price of power. His journey illuminates the precarious balance between human will and divine will, exploring themes of fate and free choice in a world where lines often blur and redemption hard won. Chapter 5. The Adversaries, Fallen Lords and Inhuman Foes. Harkyn's arduous quest is punctuated by encounters with formidable adversaries, none more haunting than the fallen lords, once mighty mortals who reached for godhood but paid the ultimate price. These tragic figures, tainted by their own ambition and the lingering divine corruption, were transformed into nightmarish abominations, their souls warped and their forms distorted. Now, roaming as cursed wolves clad in shattered armor, the fallen lords serve as grim reminders of the consequences of reaching beyond mortal boundaries. Each embodies a unique pain and a narrative of lost glory, reflecting the broader themes of the cost of power and hubris. Alongside them, Harkyn faces various otherworldly creatures bred of the divine taint's corrupting touch. These beings range from spectral knights, whose ethereal forms shimmer and waver in the fading light, to grotesque, mutated beasts blending flesh and shadow into terrifying forms. Many are former mortals irreparably changed by dark magic or desperation. Their presence heightens the atmosphere of peril pervasive throughout the lands, as dangers manifest both physically and metaphysically. Combat with these foes is a test of skill and patience, but each encounter also reveals deeper layers of the battle between divine residue and mortal resilience. These enemies symbolize a larger conflict, a war of influence that threatens to spill over and consume whatever remains of human order and sanity. Chapter 6. The Role of the Order and the Clerics. Integral to the stability of a world suffused with divine peril is the Order, a faction of formidable resolve blending faith with militaristic purpose. Tasked with maintaining the gods' captivity and upholding fragile peace, the Order consists of clerics, knights, and scholars who operate both publicly and in shadows. Their creed acknowledges the divine's legacy with a solemn reverence, but counters the wrathful ambitions of those same gods. Clerics within the Order serve pivotal roles, not only as spiritual leaders, but also as wielders of holy magic designed to repel corruption and restore order. Their magic channels sacred energies, shining light into dark corners and wielding powers that can banish or contain tainted forces. However, within the Order exists complexity. Many clerics deeply committed to their mission, while others grapple with doubt, ambition, or heretical desires. These internal tensions have occasionally spun into schisms and covert conflicts, unsettling the unity necessary for survival. The rigid hierarchy within the Order possesses sacred texts and arcane rituals passed down through generations, holding crucial secrets about the gods' imprisonment. Often, their motives remain inscrutable, sometimes offering aid to Harkyn, at other times obstructing his progress in pursuit of doctrinal goals. The Order thus embodies an uneasy duality, a force of preservation against chaos, but also gatekeepers of knowledge and power that can tip the balance unpredictably. Their pervasive influence affects kingdoms, cities, and rogue factions alike, reflecting the intricate dance between devotion, power, and control in a world on the edge. Chapter 7. The Ancient Relics and Forbidden Magic. The remnants of a lost age are rooted deeply in the ancient relics scattered across this fractured world. These artifacts, forged during the gods' reign or created in the chaos of their downfall, bear sacred or profane energies potent enough to alter the course of fate. Encoded with divine essence or corrupted magic, these relics embody power and peril alike. Many seek them. Scholars yearn for knowledge, warriors crave the edge in battle, zealots strive for holy favor, and criminals covet dominion over rivals. The power these remnants hold often comes with a steep price. Using forbidden magic extracted from relics involves a dangerous pact. It can amplify strength beyond mortal limits, but frequently drains sanity, warps bodies, or binds users to resentful forces. Throughout his journey, Harkyn discovers, wields, or contends with several such relics, each a fragment of the world's layered history, revealing glimpses of the divine and its fall. Some relics grant blessings, others curses. Some simply whisper forgotten lore or usher visions. They become focal points for narrative choices that influence both gameplay and story development, offering paths toward salvation or destruction. This ambivalence reveals a world locked in a precarious balance, where power is inseparable from corruption, and every boon carries shadowed consequences. Ultimately, these relics highlight the fundamental truth that the pursuit of power without wisdom often invites ruin. Chapter 8. The Corruption of the Rhogar and Their Fallen Kin. Among the many peoples woven into the fabric of this world, the Rhogar stand out as tragic figures, linked closely to divine powers' rise and fall. Once a noble and revered race, the Rhogar were bestowed with fragments of the divine essence, acting as intermediaries who bridged celestial divinity and mortal existence. Their presence maintained balance, and they bore steep responsibilities to serve as guardians of sacred knowledge and champions of justice. However, after the imprisonment, much of their race succumbed to a grievous corruption as divine taint spilled into their blood and spirit. This corruption twisted their forms and minds, mutating once proud Rhogar into the fallen, formidable, corrupted entities whose loyalty is wrecked by madness and rage. These fallen Rhogar act as protectors of forsaken divine relics or roam the wastelands spreading chaos and devastation. Their transformation is a poignant symbol of how divine interference could mar even nobility and grace. Their tragic descent mirrors the larger theme of fallibility within divine hierarchies and mortal collusion. The fallen Rhogar frequently cross paths with Harkyn, their existence tied to the mysteries surrounding the god's imprisonment and the rebellion that birthed it. Battling them is not only a physical trial, but a confrontation with a lamented past, evidencing the price paid by those who once served the gods faithfully, but now stand as broken monuments to tragedy. Chapter 9. The Veil Between Worlds and the Spirit Realm. One of the most enigmatic dimensions in the Lords of the Fallen universe is the Veil, an ethereal boundary separating the mortal world from the spirit realm. This mysterious threshold allows living beings to interact with ghosts, remnants of past souls, and lingering fragments of divine power that defy physical constraints. The Veil is both a font of arcane knowledge and a perilous domain, as it harbors spirits benevolent and malevolent alike. Traversing this boundary grants access to long-forgotten histories, whispered secrets, and visions that reveal truths hidden from living eyes. Harkyn, during his arduous journey, learns to navigate this realm, drawing insight from the spectral interactions and uncovering stepwise the complex layers of lore underlying the divine conflict. However, lingering too long in the Veil is fraught with danger. Wanderers risk being trapped, dissociating from reality, or twisted by vengeful entities seeking to cross into the mortal plane. The Veil encapsulates themes of memory, regret, and redemption, serving as a metaphor for the interplay between past deeds and present destiny. It sharpens the narrative atmosphere, reminding players that reality is rarely singular or stable, but a convergence of seen and unseen forces shaping the destiny of men and gods in equal measure. Chapter 10. The Role of the Pilgrimage and Sacred Trials. Traveling through the world are pilgrims and seekers drawn to ancient rites, known as the Sacred Trials, which serve as pivotal spiritual and physical tests for those wishing to confront the souls of the past or seek redemption under watchful gods. These arduous pilgrimages often wind through treacherous landscapes, ancient shrines hidden in mountains, long-abandoned temples corrupted by divine influence, or places where celestial events once reshaped reality. Pilgrims undertake these journeys for various reasons. Some seek enlightenment or divine favor, others crave absolution for grievous sins, and a few hunger for power to combat the darkness suffusing their world. The sacred trials encountered along these paths demand more than mere strength. Pilgrims must demonstrate courage in the face of death, wisdom to solve arcane riddles, and unwavering faith that transcends earthly suffering. These rites accept no half measures. Failure often means doom or permanent spiritual damage. Harkyn's trek runs parallel to these traditions, intersecting with pilgrims and sanctuaries where divine judgment lingers in the air. The sacred trials symbolize the internal and external struggles of the world's denizens, portraying how mortals wrestle with free will, destiny, and morality under the ever-present divine shadow. Their existence weaves together religion, culture, and personal destiny, enriching the fabric of the world and underscoring the multifaceted responses mortals have toward the gods' distant influence. Chapter 11. The Betrayal of Kaslo and its Consequences. One of the darkest chapters in this world's history centers on Kaslo, a warrior famed for unmatched strength and conviction who ultimately succumbed to shadows of betrayal. Once a shining symbol of hope, Kaslo stood alongside the divine during the cataclysmic conflicts that shaped the current age. His valor and reputation inspired countless warriors, emboldening resistance and unifying factions during dire times. Yet, beneath this noble exterior simmered doubts and ambitions that festered into fatal weakness. Haunted by secrets and a desire for greater power to protect his people, or perhaps himself, Kaslo secretly forged alliances with dark, forbidden entities, forces born of corruption and despair. His betrayal splintered bonds forged in blood and shattered trust between allies, tipping delicate balances toward chaos and hastening the gods' imprisonment. Kaslo's treason sent shockwaves through generations, poisoning interfactional relations, sowing mistrust, and igniting conflicts that persist centuries later. His name became synonymous with duplicity and ruin, serving as a cautionary tale about pride's destructive potential and the perilous thirst for power. His legacy endures in cursed artifacts bearing his mark, in haunted locales where whispers recall his fall, and in bitter rivalries rooted in old wounds he inflicted. As Harkyn encounters those scarred by Kaslo's deeds, the echoes of this betrayal reveal the world's history as a living, breathing force, its past indelibly shaping present struggles. Kaslo's story offers a somber meditation on the consequences of personal failings magnified to epic scale. Chapter 12. The Divine Prison and its Fragile Seals. At the epicenter of unease in this world lies the Divine Prison, an otherworldly vault conceived to contain the rebellious gods who threaten to sunder reality itself. This immense structure is crafted through a delicate fusion of ancient magic, celestial runes, and the sacrificial essence of countless souls bound in eternal guardianship. The seals that hold the gods are masterpieces of arcane engineering, woven spells layered with physical stones and spiritual energies that resonate with both the corporeal and ethereal. Over eons, however, these seals have begun to weaken. The constant meddling of cultists who worship the imprisoned gods, sorcerers craving forbidden knowledge, and cosmic forces beyond mortal comprehension erode their stability. Shadowy factions emerge, some committed to preserving the prison's integrity, others scheming to dismantle it and unleash what lies within for personal or ideological gains. Harkyn's journey is inseparably linked to this escalating crisis, compelling him to uncover the intricate history behind the prison's creation, confront those who seek to exploit its fragility, and ultimately determine whether divine wrath will be unleashed or restrained. The divine prison stands as a symbol of balance between order and chaos, encapsulating the world's recurring struggle to vault itself out of divine oppression while avoiding catastrophic recklessness. Its story serves as a poignant reminder of the consequences when great power is bound too tightly and vigilance becomes a never-ending burden. Chapter 13. The Ancient Prophecy and the Return of the Chosen. Embedded deep within the spiritual consciousness of this world is an ancient prophecy, spoken in ages long before the gods fell into captivity. This foretelling predicts the arrival of a chosen warrior, destined to either mend the fractures torn in the fabric of reality or hasten its unraveling. The prophecy is steeped in cryptic symbolism, portraying the chosen as a figure marked by divine essence, yet caught in a web between salvation and doom. Said to harness unique capabilities attuned to both mortal and sacred energies, the chosen bears the heavy mantle of navigating tumultuous forces, those loyal to the imprisoned gods, fervent zealots, and desperate factions all vying for control. The prophecy has seeded hope and fear across generations, shaping political machinations, religious zeal, and whispered conspiracies alike. Harkyn emerges as the embodiment of this foretold figure, though his narrative confronts the complexity beneath prophetic certainty. His decisions, battles, and alliances introduce ambiguity to the doctrine, whether the prophecy is inexorable fate or malleable outcome driven by choice. This element of uncertainty serves to deepen philosophical themes woven throughout the story, exploring destiny, free will, and the nuanced interplay of both in defining personal and collective futures. The prophecy itself becomes a character, guiding, haunting, and reshaping the journey it foretells, emboldening heroes and dooming others in equal measure. Chapter 14. The Fortress of the Fallen and Key Battlefields. The unfolding tale unfolds amid the remnants of monumental fortresses and broken bastions that once stood as humanity's final barrier against overwhelming divine savagery. Among these, the Fortress of the Fallen holds particular historic and strategic significance. Once a bastion of hope, guarded zealously by knights and clerics of the Order, it remains today a grim shadow of its former brilliance. Years of conflict, divine retaliation, and arcane corruption have twisted its halls and walls into a labyrinth of menace. The fortress's decaying towers and battlements still resonate with faint echoes of battle cries, bloodshed, and betrayals. Its courtyards are overrun by creatures spawned from divine corruption, while spectral sentinels linger, bound by duty long past. These locations do more than serve as combat arenas. They are repositories of deep lore, their stones and relics recording tales of heroism, downfall, and sacrifice. As Harkyn makes his way through these sites, each step recounts long-buried histories that enrich the narrative with immersive detail. The battlefield settings underscore the stark contrast between perseverance and ruin, a world shaped by the infinite struggle between mortal will and godly power. They remind players that even the mightiest human defenses cower under the weight of divine influence and present the ruins not merely as obstacles, but as lamenting monuments to a broken past. Chapter 15. The relationships between Harkyn and key allies. Or with Harkyn's solitary battle are several crucial allies whose fates interlace with his own, forming a delicate network of trust and conflict. These companions include devout members of the Order, rugged wanderers shaped by hardship, and survivors bearing their own wounds and secrets. These individuals come from diverse backgrounds, each driven by personal motivations ranging from redemption to revenge, loyalty to self-preservation. Their relationships with Harkyn are dynamic, often marked by mutual suspicion, fragile alliances, or profound friendship forged in fire. Through dialogue and shared struggles, they reveal complex social and political dynamics embedded in this fractured world. Some offer wisdom about divine legacies or forbidden lore, providing crucial insights necessary for Harkyn's quest. Others bring critical skills, combat expertise, magical support, or spiritual guidance that become indispensable in pivotal battles. However, trust remains precarious. Secrets, rival intentions, and moral ambiguity frequently challenge bonds, testing Harkyn's judgment and resolve. These interpersonal narratives enrich the overarching lore, portraying a world where individuals, no matter how powerful or flawed, must rely on one another while navigating ambiguity and danger. The evolving loyalties and occasional betrayals offer a reminder that the path of heroes is seldom straight or simple. Every choice echoes beyond the battlefield into the hearts of friends and foes alike. Chapter 16. The Final Confrontation with the Divine Lords. The narrative reaches its crescendo in a series of epic confrontations between Harkyn and the surviving Divine Lords, ancient gods whose wills and wrath threaten to shatter the fragile peace and reclaim dominion over the mortal realm. Each divine lord manifests a distinct facet of divine corruption. Some embody unbridled wrath, others cloaked in despair, manipulation, or pride. These battles surpass mere physical contests, evolving into symbolic clashes between mortal resilience and divine arrogance. They demand not only skill and strength, but profound understanding of the gods' histories, weaknesses, and the consequences of their ambitions. Harkyn faces these mighty adversaries across sprawling cinematic encounters where every blow, every evasion, and every revelation weighs heavily. These confrontations expose deeply intertwined themes: sacrifice demanded for the greater good, the torment of seeking redemption for past sins, and the complex dance between fate and free will. The outcome of these duels dictates the world's future, highlighting how choices made in desperation or courage ripple through the fabric of existence. Through victory or defeat, these final battles offer revelations about the cycle of divine intervention and the enduring spirit of humanity, encapsulating the game's core mythos in dramatic, fiery spectacles of clashing power. Chapter 17. The Aftermath. Renewal or Ruin. With the divine lords either vanquished or once more secured within their cosmic prison, the world stands at a crossroads between devastation and hope. The aftermath of conflict reveals the heavy toll exacted. Fallen heroes litter battlefields. Once thriving lands lay ravaged, and fragile alliances hold tenuously amidst the rising uncertainty. Yet, amid the desolation, faint signs of renewal emerge. Communities begin to rebuild, old wounds slowly close, and new leaders attempt to forge identities unshackled from divine domination. Harkyn's arduous journey, marked by loss and sacrifice, becomes a beacon of cautious optimism, symbolizing humanity's enduring will to define its own destiny. However, the world remains tense. The prison's seals, though repaired, require constant vigilance, lest the ancient wrath be unleashed anew. History weighs heavily upon those who live after, reminding all of the cyclical nature of strife between gods and men. The conclusion is neither an unblemished victory nor hopeless despair. It reflects resilience amid tribulation and the difficult choices needed to foster lasting peace. It shines a light on the enduring strength of human spirit, sustaining hope that even amid darkness, change and redemption remain possible. Chapter 18. Legacy of Lords of the Fallen. The legacy of Lords of the Fallen lies in its rich blend of challenging gameplay and intricate storytelling. Beyond the immediate narrative, it invites reflection on timeless themes such as the struggle for power, redemption, and the place of humanity in a cosmos ruled by beings beyond comprehension. The lore crafted in this universe serves as a backdrop for these profound questions, illustrating a world where destiny is both a cage and a path. The characters, especially Harkyn, exemplify the complexity of heroism in a flawed, unforgiving world. The game's success inspired a renewed appreciation for dark fantasy settings that challenged not only the player's skill, but also their understanding of narrative depth. Lords of the Fallen remains a significant milestone in genre blending and world building, influencing later titles and contributing to the ongoing conversation about storytelling in interactive media. As a standalone legend, it reminds us of the enduring power of myth and the dark beauty of worlds shaped by gods and mortals alike.